Oh, we're on. Okay. I've been listening this morning to more of the, not just the electric universe stuff, but just different stellar history that I'd not been aware of lately. That I haven't been following astronomy lately. And I don't have time to read all the media. And the science news, they just presume it's all same as usual, and they're just still not finding what they're looking for. And then I didn't know all about this all electric universe stuff going on. So, but I wasn't watching one of those this morning. It was a regular astronomer who was not in that paradigm, but he was going through the pulsars that make sounds, or frequencies that transmit rhythms and tones. I think that's a concert A from that one, and this rhythm that's kind of neat on the seventh one. And then I watched one on some guy talking about Sirius and all the lore about it, both in the alien UFO world, alienology and all that stuff, but also in the what he knew of the usually Western Egypt, Sumer, always they never know, they never start delving into the Chinese and Indian and other astrological formations. In the North, they only had the one, which was the morning star. But about the stuff about the morning star, that it was visible in the daytime in historical times, and Napoleon saw it at Waterloo, and it was on the day of one of Napoleon's, and I think it was in not Waterloo. It was he was in Luxembourg, but Napoleon saw it on the day of a battle. On the day of a battle, and this is the augury thing about seeing comets on the days of battles. But there was an inauguration of Abraham Lincoln, and there was an earlier one that I've forgotten, but this has been going on since ancient times. And yes, there is a sort of ample evidence that the tail of Venus swiped us a couple of times pretty hard, right? And yeah, he talks about the rain of fire being only 2,500 years ago or whatever. He also this other guy was claiming that it was always he cited Graham Hancock saying, well, it's just the pyramids are a memory of this higher technology, higher awareness. That's true, but not in the way that they're usually taken in the spiritual connection and all that stuff. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, very it is. It is because we're all electroorganisms. We're all part of the electroplasm of the universe. But like Doris Lessing has it in Chiquita in the zones of marriage of zones 3, 4, and 7, or 3, 5, 3, 4, and 8, something like that. That this is a quarantine planet because of all the strain here and all the discord. So, anyways, let's leave that topic because it goes somewhere else than what I want to talk about. Uh, but when they show the other guy I watched, he really got into showing both the pulsars and what they look like and how they move. They do, and you got to think about those pillars of what our astronomers tell us are gas. Yeah, that's plasma. The spark stars, those big pillars that look like alien giant things. And I watched some stuff on Proxima Centauri, and always the evidence that I was hearing, and then again, I got down to the Venus video of my title. But everything I was hearing and what I was seeing, even when I was watching the amateur videos of the stars, which it's just the atmospheric effect, but it's interesting the quasi-electrical effect of the atmospheric refraction. So that would speak to the weather, and sometimes there's that eight-pointed star of the design that shows up that they have this crescent with the eight-pointed star, and this story about. Also, now we'll get into Venus. Although I have already in mentioning her as a commentary for Europe, on Europe, yes, very much on Europe, but on Earth, in terms of the effects of say the melting of the ice caps. I think now it seems pretty clear now to me there's something to do with it. Then, or like I said, it's a second meteor, but maybe it has another. Maybe it was an electro burst from her or something, or just a tail of something out of her tail that smolted smote the Laurentian ice caps and suddenly thawed it into Lake Agassiz, and somehow broke the Davis Strait ice dam and unleashed the 6,000 BC flood that flooded the Black Sea and the city of Dwarka. And all these guys that are doing these amateur videos, they're all Westerners going from their particular perspective, and it's all biblical and Western science oriented, but they're not looking at the Indian and the Chinese and the other legendary records adequately enough, or just being open to the idea that they're not just the Dogon or the Hopi, you know, all the mantra, the usual drills. But there is tons of evidence now in this Venus video I watched now. Okay, the planet has electric lightning. How can it? Because the clouds are made out of lead and bismuth. The clouds that do snow, like we have snow that come down on the surface as this fine whatever, and about weather, and the snow that just hit North America, Europe, what it is, right? What happened is the ionization of the atmosphere above you changed, and all the clouds that were picked up off the Pacific or above the ice caps, were dropped on you all at once, because what happened is the electricity left the cloud that had kept all the particles of water separated from each other, and they dropped in the cold and became snow or rain. And this is the nature of precipitation. Precipitation is electrical. And I'm starting to think that we should monitor all the different faults and they're talking about all the time about the iron rotating inside the earth, that might be a dynamo, for example. And this brought to mind Roger Zelazny's Lord of Shadows. I don't want to get into it, but about the earth mechanism is seen from the legendary side when you go to the bottom. But on the bright side, it's a fiery furnace. So it all depends on how you look at it. You see how it's being analyzed. Indeed. But, Venus is kind of doing that. And, can it support life? Well, did it ever? Well, they talk about it once having had oceans. Well, if it did, it was still part of Saturn when it did that. I'm just quoting Velikovsky. I think Velikovsky is quite wrong on the date. It wasn't at the time of Moses, which is 1700 BC, according to what I've been able to find out. But no, it was the 10,500 event, which interestingly is also the one that this Sirius video was, Graham Hancock was saying, was such an important timing. Well, okay, but that was built like when Gobekli Tepe, that was come up with, that number was come up, that location was come up with at 10,500. And the knowledge of that location would have come with the god Thoth, who came from Haran, who came from Anita, Upper Chaldea, came from Upper Chaldea, and was with the pantheon of gods. And even the Egyptians themselves in the Kolbrin say, in their Kolbrin, which is their version of the Bible, so quote unquote, only means book, from the Caucasus. That's where they came from. But so that 10,500 days, that has to do with the initial flooding of the reflooding of the Mediterranean. It was already there by 400 feet, 125 meters. I think that's about it. And the other one was 6,000 BC. It came up by the other 200 meters that pushed through the Bosporus and flooded the Black Sea. And there was another earlier sea level, 20,000 BC. But ancient legend speaks of Venus with her long tail in the sky, and Volin the Smith, this Norse saga, which is Wayland the Smith in Old English, it's quite violent and gory, it has to do with killing, And the stories of the war in heavens and the thunderbolt that struck down Aton and he plunged into the northern hemisphere, and the river Eridanus, which circles the world, which to me, that's fine enough to say where Greenland is, even though it did hit land, and we're lucky it did hit land, But it was an actual chunk of me, according to the Velikovsky theory, an actual chunk of Mars that Venus had lashed by on her way by past us, and then in her orbit, with her on an inner orbit, with her forming, seeming to be a planet but not spawned like the others. How they're taking through the atmosphere videos, they think they're seeing, living things. The stars twinkle like I see them do at night with my bad eyes. Right, you can see them flutter and twinkle, right? That's the atmosphere. But when you see them close up, when you're looking through the lens as refracted by the lens of the atmosphere, that some of them have kind of quasi-electrical patterns, and then you get that eight-pointed star. The eight-pointed star must be an effect of the lens. But, the lightning bolt look of so much of Earth's geography, as I said about the Bridge River Canyon where I'm from, asks and the arcs of the Aleutians and stuff, and where the subduction zones are in terms of our tectonics, which Venus does not have. Venus has only one shell; it has no tectonics. So it's a completely different planet. It spins backwards and charged with electricity. It's mostly metal. Well, not mostly metal. I don't know its composition, but its atmosphere is really weird. Okay, but yeah, it has I don't know, was it lakes of ethane or something like that? Now, did it ever have water? Well, I don't know. Not as Einsteinian, the Velikovskian theory comes out, is accepted. I think it should be. The dating of it, I think, is the issue, and a more a comprehensive examination of all the mythographies, and learning to take the mythographies at face value and start looking at other evidence too for electrical theory. And I'd mentioned Arthur Mesmer, who people just see as a hypnotist, but his whole thing was electricity, the bioenergy, basically. And of course, that was also the basis of Wilhelm Reich and his series on orgone. But there was a bion, a particle of life, But there was this thing of electricity, and the electricity that guides us, and sometimes appears in the sky, visible to the naked eye. Now, even the science video says, well, millions of years down, the sun's all stable, blah, 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 but millions of years down the line, who knows, Mars may come through and go off and so on, but means they're doing all this speculation stuff without admitting that the whole body of evidence that it appears that in ancient times this did happen, in which case it kind of validates the electric universe theory, which also the viewing of the pulsars this morning, that also did for me. It was physical evidence for me, visual evidence, and sonic evidence also of not grand, I don't want to call it grand design, but the harmony of the spheres, what sounded like it's a certain pitch, I think it's an A, and I won't say it's 4/4, but a really steady beat, a really steady notable beat coming from the one and the seventh one in that video that I saw in the pulsars. As for Sirius and the other beings that may be out there, quite likely it's a vast universe, and there are all kinds of possibilities here, and there's things that such beings would know about electricity that we don't, that's how they've conquered time and space, because, for us to think about getting to Proxima Centauri, sending the Russian guys, they have a near light speed thing they want to build. It'll take 20 years to get it built and off there, Um, it's all about why do we want to leave the planet until we can fix the one we have. I'm sure our galactic neighbors who are and voyeurs and schemers, whatever is going on here, and there's more than one kind. If there's one, there's many more, right? But what I think, as Doris Lessing indicates, that the planet is under quarantine. But to see the electric Venus stuff underscore my thoughts on the electric planet things, the ion bolts between planets, which Velikovsky speaks of, and Tesla would implicitly understand if he ever read Velikovsky. I don't know, and I saw his theories on gravity. I don't think he did. Gravity is illusory or something, according to these are really odd kind of flat Earth kind of quote claims and analyses. But it attracts a lot of flies, the sweet stuff, right? But there's some really intriguing questions there about the other theories of the brain, which also involve both Mesmer and Pavlov, and the name escapes me now. I don't know. I think probably John Lilly, though, and more modern, bio psychoengineers, that we're always looking for a mechanistic explanation of something causing something that's in us, rather than what is us causing how our bioplasm and our electroplasm is structured. And our bioplasm is an electroplasm, as is Venus. I see that kind of now. I look back at history and I understand, why they watched the skies, why August were important. And sometimes, between comets and volcanoes, omens in the skies and changing of the seasons, and like what's happening now with this is summer in January. Yeah, this is the kind of thing that involves electrical potencies in the planet, which of course involves drought, heat, temperature, all of that. It all has to do with planetary electrics and the effects it causes. The water ions, the charges floating down away from each other, making rain, or just, repelling each other so that they stay apart as clouds. Or, all the other stuff, the forces of the earth that, I don't know, and like I say, the geology of the region that I'm trying to understand, right? I'm thinking now with the magnetics and stuff, and the devices you'd have to have, the technology, and if the data was more available, could I do anything? Could I design anything? I don't think so. But I think it's a fascinating field. So I've been recording this stuff. I have friends who are electrical engineers or just engineers, or technical people, scientific people, who really should have a listen. I just sit to all of it I just said, of course, which is why you're still here. But also go have a listen to all the electric universe stuff, and other stuff, even the eclectic, off the wall, aliens and